Hey guys, welcome back to Vertical Momentum. I'm your host, Richard Kaufman, also known as the Comeback Coach. Guys, this is going to be a great episode, so make sure that you hit that subscribe button, that notification bell, because when we have somebody come on the show, we talk to people that have done it, not just talk about it. We be about it. So my brother Adam is going to be dropping some serious knowledge about taking your business to new heights. He's a Inc. 5000 kind of guy. Top 50 business owner. So he knows what he's talking about. And I really want to talk about branding, because whether you know it or not, guys, you are a brand. Whether you know it or not, you are a brand. So we're going to be talking about branding. Adam, my brother, what is going on?
Not a whole lot. Thanks for having me. I love the intro. I love that little clip right there, and I'm just excited to be here, man. So I appreciate it.
You know, I love it, and I'm so grateful that we became friends the last couple months. You're doing some amazing things. I love branding. I'm a big branding guy. I think, and I don't care who you are. If you don't think you are a brand or you don't have a brand, you are a brand. Because nowadays, if you go out for a job, they're going to Google you. They're going to go on LinkedIn. They're going to go on Facebook. They're going to find you. So whether you don't think you're a brand, you're a brand, right?
Oh, 1,000%. Everybody likes to do business and buy products from. So even if you're a product-based business and you, as the business owner, don't think it matters what your background is or what you stand for, people are going to find out about it, as you mentioned. But people buy and do business with those that they know, like, and trust. So it's important to have that personal brand. It's important to get that messaging out there, because it will make or break you. That is for sure.
Okay, now let me ask you, because I've been listening to a lot of stuff about branding lately, and two things that came up is one is when Coke came out with the new Coke, and it totally shit the bed.
Yeah.
But when they came back and said, "All right, guys, we screwed up. We're sorry," and now Coke is higher than it's ever been. And then also I don't know if you ever follow bodybuilding and fitness. There's a new guy out there called the Liver King. Said he was steroid free for about a year. Finds out he's lying now, but he said, "You know what, guys? I'm sorry. I apologize." And now he's got more fans than ever. So I believe that even if you mess up, even if you have a brand, if you are honest and trustworthy, people will forgive you in today's age, right?
Oh, 1,000%. I think, as we were kind of talking before, and as you mentioned, I think a lot that goes into personal branding isn't necessarily just about the success that you have, because as we all know, right, you have to take everything that you see on social media with a grain of salt, and multiple grains of salt at that, because anybody can really put out whatever they want to. It's really important to also talk about your failures and your journey, which is what has led me to grow the business in the way that I have. Most of our business on the digital marketing side directly comes from people in my network, but the content that I produce is not necessarily geared towards digital marketing. It's geared towards my ideal client, who is an entrepreneur, who's a human being, and they know it's not all sunshine and roses. And so I've been able to open up and help people understand what it is truly like to run a business. And when things don't go your way, I like to be just as upfront with people, and maybe even more upfront with people about that than the actual success, which is what not necessarily everybody does.
All right, so let me ask you a question, because I have a traumatic brain injury, and if I don't write things down, it doesn't happen. I totally forget. Since COVID started, I had one of the Iron Chefs on, Simon Majumdar, and he said since COVID started, over 100,000 restaurants had to close in the United States, and a lot of them had to become resilient. So in your opinion, what is your definition of resiliency, especially in business?
I think it is directly related to how you act when things go wrong and your back is against the wall. Every single time when I look back at when I've been resilient, and more so why I've had to be resilient, it's because my back has been against the wall and I chose to make a decision to overcome that obstacle that was in front of me. So you're faced with two different decisions when something like COVID happens, or when you see that resilience come up in your life, whether it's in business or something that's going on personally. And it's overcoming and facing those struggles and challenges versus hiding and running away from your problems or those obstacles. It's just tackling it head on. So facing it when your back is against the wall and truly figuring out what you have to do to overcome, because there's nothing on this earth that can't be overcome with the right mindset, with the right work, with the right plan in place.
And that's why I wear this t-shirt. It says, "Today I decide." The three most important words in the English language are "today I decide," because you don't have to be the same person when you go to bed tonight than when you did when you woke up this morning. We all have that power to choose to be a victim or a victor. So,
Love it.
all right. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Give us a quick down and dirty. Where did you grow up? And how did you become the man that you are today?
Yeah, absolutely. So Adam McChesney here in St. Louis, Missouri, born and raised here, lived in St. Louis pretty much my entire life, went to college about 2 hours away here in the state of Missouri. So Missouri boy through and through. I got started after college in medical device sales. I was in that industry with two different companies for 5 years, most notably at a company called ResMed. So for all you listeners that might be familiar with CPAP equipment and sleep apnea, I actually sold their products for 3 of those years and worked my way up that company. It's the #1 CPAP manufacturer in the entire world. So I got a lot of good experience doing that. An incredible company. I started there back in 2017. Within 9 months, got promoted, almost making $200,000 in my first full year. Once I got promoted, I eventually ended up making that. And so kind of had the life that I thought I wanted to live and what everybody probably would want. I had a lot of things that most people would dream and wish for, but at some degree, I always realized I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know what vehicle I could actually take into entrepreneurship. So in 2018, started looking for ways to make money online. I came across an ad to learn digital marketing and to basically learn how to build out digital real estate, to build websites, rank those websites to the first page of Google, do all sorts of paid advertising with it, but never really did much in terms of making money with that side hustle, is what I call it, up until 2020. In 2020, before the pandemic started, I said 2020 is going to be my year. I'm going to leave corporate America. I'm going to start investing in myself. I'm going to invest in this side hustle and make it a full-time gig. Well, I was kind of already on that momentum, and then COVID happened, and I had been traveling most of the state of Missouri and even parts of the country in that role at ResMed. So I never really had the ability to take the side hustle and build upon it. But when COVID happened, I was obviously cooped up in my home. I didn't have to go out and really travel or network with my clients. So I started building that business more and more. And in July 2020, I left. So I went full-time into digital marketing, and it's been a crazy journey ever since, but ran my own agency and then partnered and merged it over at HITES Digital in early 2021. And since then, we have over 4 to almost 5x now our business. I have 7 full-time employees, but HITES Digital in and of itself has about 200. We were just named the Inc. 5000 list. We were named to Future 50, which is one of the fastest growing companies in St. Louis, as well as best in marketing in St. Louis as well. So we've accomplished a lot in a short period of time, but we do everything from your logo and branding to website design, search engine optimization, and paid advertising.
All right, guys, we got to go. It's been great. It's been an awesome show. But no, I really love that because, I've had people on like Jeff Lerner. I've learned from some great people like, Mr. Brunson, Russell. I've learned from people. They've mentored me. And I got invited to go to a class and learn digital marketing. It was a crash course in digital marketing for 12 weeks with a group that I'm involved in called Operation Veteran Freedom with Christopher Celeste and Liam Weisner. And I took it to class as a joke. I said, this is bullshit. I'm like, digital marketing don't work. It's bullshit. Because they said, oh, you can make money, as long as if you put a ebook or something out there, you can make money 24 hours a day. I'm like, come on. So I took the course, put out an ebook and put out some digital products. and my father passed away on Valentine's Day, and I was out of state for a couple of weeks, and I looked at my bank account, and money was coming in. 24 hours a day, money's coming in. I was like, wow, that's not bullshit. It's real. You know, because I never thought, because I was with GNC for almost 30 years. And, you know, what we made money once the doors opened and stopped when the doors were closed. Mm-hmm. But now I realize with digital, the doors are never closed.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, talk to us a little bit, because my wife is with a certain company. I'm not going to say who they are, but she's been with them for 30 years. An amazing company, awesome. They do hips, knees, and joints. You'll probably know who it is. But surgical device salesmen have such a high burnout rate. It seems like, you know, they last a year, they make the big money, and then they're done. And I think it's a very high stress level job. But I think it's also a great learning job. And I think anybody, if you want to be successful in business, you should take a sales job, right?
Of course.
Learn how to take a lot of no's. So what was your first foray? What was it like, your first foray into sales?
Yeah, so when I first started at a company called Gold Bio here in St. Louis, they were a very small company. And I had to travel the country essentially to make any sort of money. So I was traveling on the East Coast, essentially. It ended up being about 75% of the year I was gone living in a hotel. And I had to basically cold call and show up to people's doors and try to sell our products. They were a medical and life science product at the time. But I got told no over and over and over again, because no one knew who we were. We were an up and coming company that had been around for a long time, but they never had a sales team. So that's really where I first got acclimated with sales, and what eventually led me into entrepreneurship, because I was essentially running my own business within a business. And so I leveraged the skill set that I had there. I was the number one rep in that small company in every single category. That catapulted me to the opportunity at ResMed, and ResMed was really well known, but I had to essentially go and grow my territory. So I was doing a lot of solution selling. I was doing a lot of in-services with doctors and sleep labs, and then also the durable medical equipment companies that we were selling to. And it wasn't that people didn't know who we were, but I just had to take a different and outside of the box approach, because I really needed people to start scripting our product into turning their businesses and ecosystems for our products around how is ResMed the ideal solution for them. And so it quickly became a solution selling situation versus that product selling situation, which I had really been accustomed to. So it was long hours. There were some days where I literally went into a sleep lab in the morning to catch the people that were just getting off their shift. And then I would go to another sleep lab at night when they were just getting in there at 9 or 10 o'clock. And then I had the entire day where I was also doing meetings. So it was very long hours. I was traveling across the state of Missouri, and I really cut my teeth in multiple facets of selling, which really led me to, hey, why don't I try to go do something on my own where I'm selling myself, I'm selling my brand behind all of these different products and services that I now offer on the digital marketing side.
Okay. Now, I lost 80% of my vision about 3 years ago. And my hearing got a lot better. Because you lose one, once you lose one thing, usually everything else gets heightened. And which is great for podcasting, because I can actually hang on every word that you say. And you actually talked about, which I think is the most important thing, is you weren't selling, you were offering solutions. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the smartest thing people can actually do, because people don't care. I think a bit old Zig Ziglar said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. If I'm looking for a car and you try to sell me I'm looking to buy a truck, it's not going to work. And I think a lot of salespeople take that, well, they're just going to buy my product, instead of listening, because most customers are going to sell themselves if you just listen to what they say. So what made you different to make you the number one salesperson? What were the other people not doing?
So I think, and this is what's led me to be very successful in digital marketing as well, but I think so many people are, as you mentioned, trying to sell a product or a widget. And they're so focused on the different aspects or the different features within that product or that widget, when really, as you mentioned with the car, people are looking potentially for some features, but they're really looking for other things. They're looking for safety in a car. They're looking for to get from point A to point B. They could be looking at different aspects of what a car does, but you're trying to sell them something that is not actually what they're looking for. But you're also not asking questions. So that was the one thing that I did very, very good, is I would ask all of the introductory questions and the qualifying questions to really help figure out what is important to the prospect, what is important to them, what is going into the buying decision. Everybody thinks that people are only looking for the cheapest possible option. But most people, especially your ideal clients, they're looking for a variety of other things, but you never ask the qualifying questions. And that's what I did better than most people.
And, and I really believe in that. Like I said, I was with GNC for on and off for 30 years. And whenever a customer came in, I knew what the conversation we had, where I was going to steer them, but I wanted to make sure that I wanted to know their why.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you're looking for weight loss, okay, you want to look great and everything, but I think you'll be more successful. Like for me, I'm on my own weight loss journey now because I want to be able to walk my 11-year-old down to the wedding when she gets married in 20 years. So that's my why. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of people will be more successful if they ask the why questions. Why do you want to do this? Why do you want to grow your business? Because if once you know your why, easy to figure out the how. But it's just figure out that why, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's also it's the harder route, for a salesperson or a business owner to really get connected with their client and dig deeper. Because there's all the surface level stuff that is really easy to do. Hey, you need X, Y, and Z product. Okay. Most salespeople just want to talk about themselves and they want to talk about their products and why it's the best, but they miss the boat because they don't make that human connection and they don't understand truly what is important to their buyer. And it's not that they don't have success, but they don't truly provide that solution or that security or that peace of mind that people are actually looking for. So when you do all of those things, when you take the extra time to not only qualify and connect with that buyer's why, you actually create a more educated buyer, which becomes a more, a deeper connection with that eventual client, which you retain them better if you sell different products and solutions, the lifetime value, but they also become your best salesperson. Mm-hmm. And you can get referrals from them. They start, boasting about you on social media because you checked all of their boxes. Yeah. And that's what too many people don't care or take the time to do.
And I love that because for me, ever since I had the brain injury, I'm not good with people's names. And I tell them, I tell them I'm probably not going to remember your name, but I'm going to remember your story. Mm-hmm. When you come into me when you come in my store 2 years from now, I'm going to ask you how your daughter's dance recital went. And for that, people would say, wait a minute, you remember that? I was like, yeah, like I said, I'll remember your story. And for me, like you said, when we're off camera, people shop with people they like, people they trust. Like for me, when I went to this specific store, we were doing 400,000. Within 3 years, we hit like 1.2 million. And the way we figured it out was because when people come into our store, I want them to hang out. I want them to be able to sit, bullshit, talk sports, whatever. I mean, and I did make friends with them because most of them, all my Facebook friends are all friends now. But the longer they're in your store, the more money they're going to spend. I mean, but it's natural, you know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people, they're looking, like, especially a salesperson, they're looking to sell that one car, where if I was a car salesman, I'd want to sell that one car, and then I want his brother, his cousin, and his aunt to come and buy cars from me too. You know what I mean? Like, I
Right.
believe in building generational relationships, but I think a lot of salespeople are in it for that quick hit and then done, gone,
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more.
All right. So before we because I want to dig deep into branding and sales. As you guys know, I was with GNC for over 30 years. I loved pre-workouts, but they all tasted horrible. Or I didn't get any energy, or I got energy and I crashed hard. So I came out with my own our own coffee. It's called Vertical Momentum Coffee. It's twice the energy, twice the taste, zero crash, and the best thing, it's all hand roasted. And the best thing about the whole thing is 100% of the profits go to help veterans struggling with homelessness and PTSD. So if you guys love coffee, write coffee down below. I'll get you that information. This way you can actually enjoy some coffee and actually help somebody out. So now let me ask you a question. Let's get into branding, because I'm an OG, which means old guy. I'm a big basketball guy. I grew up in the 80s where, Jordan was destroying everybody. And if he walked up to the podium in a Puma jumpsuit and Puma sneakers, people would lose their minds, because Phil Knight may own Nike, but Jordan was the face of Nike.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to us about personal branding.
So as I mentioned, I was at ResMed, and in that market, I was solution selling. But when it came to the actual product or the solution, whatever you want to call it, I had essentially one other competitor. So I'd be better or outsell one other company when it came to the CPAP stuff. As I made the transition into digital marketing, there's literally hundreds of thousands of options that are out there. So I went from everybody knowing who I was, everybody knowing the product, and we had a superior product, and ResMed still has a superior product. But I came over to digital marketing realizing I have no idea what's going on, because I don't know how to differentiate myself. Digital marketing is digital marketing for the most part. We're really good. We have some amazing products and services, but at the end of the day, people are honestly just looking for digital marketing. So one of the things that I had to quickly realize is that I need to figure out what separates me from everybody else, what separates my company, because everybody's got their own twist and turn on how they do different things. And that differentiator was me. So for the last 2+ years now, since August of 2020, I have been producing content primarily on Facebook, and now I'm on all the other platforms that are out there. But I produce content, and I produce it in a way that I want to connect with entrepreneurs. And I connect with other people, obviously, as well. But I want to resonate with those entrepreneurs that eventually could be an ideal client, or they could potentially work with me. But if you look at most digital marketing people, and we've all seen them online, and I'm friends with a lot of them, and I've tried those strategies where you go to their profile and it's kind of a show up and throw up mentality that is there. You literally go, you see their social media. They have a Facebook cover where they're like, hey, we're the greatest digital marketer in the world. We can help transform your business. Every other post is them boasting about some sort of results they got for one client one time and how it dramatically changed their business. The long and the short of it is that's not life, and it's also not a good representation of what actually goes into digital marketing. So I quickly transitioned my content to be posting twice a day, every single day, and being super, super consistent with it, but really talking about what it is to be an entrepreneur. And when I do talk about digital marketing, which is only about 10% of my overall content, I like to connect people with a story. So if I do talk about results of our clients, I will walk through an entire sequence of someone coming to us, for example, and signing up with our services after trying out other marketing companies and talking about their story, talking about how long they've worked with us, what actually we have done working and partnering together, and then what the results have ultimately been and what it has been able to do for their business. Because people don't want to be sold. They like a good story. So you have to tell a story with your content. You have to be a storyteller. But that goes back and resonates with who I am as a digital marketer. But at the end of the day, I am an entrepreneur. I also own other businesses. We have literally created an auto glass company through our digital marketing services. And we don't know the first thing about auto glass. And I have an entire team that runs that. But we ranked a website to the first page of Google kind of by accident, and it created all this buzz, and we started generating, a couple hundred, now 1,000+ leads a month. And so I share those types of things because that's the reality of what life and entrepreneurship is. And so I share some of the ups and downs. I share, obviously the wins and the losses, but what it is like both personally and professionally to be an entrepreneur, because that's what people connect with. They don't care if I, helped out some random client and helped them grow their business if I'm not also telling a story on why we were hired, what we were able to do to help them, and how it impacted their business. So just connecting with business owners as humans, because they're human, we're human, and it's really important for us to continue to be human.
I love everything you're talking about, because I see a lot of, especially when it's a new entrepreneur. Now, I've been an entrepreneur for, I think, probably about almost 3 years now. But on the show, this is like our 550th episode, and we've had people like, David Meltzer come on, Robert Kiyosaki, and stuff like that. And a lot of people that are new business owners, you look at their Facebook page, and that's all it is business, business, business. And eventually I find myself, because now I've changed my mindset since talking with Russell Brunson, that I've become a social media creator. I'm just not consuming it. And now when I see all business, I just swipe.
Yeah.
Something like I learned from his trilogy series, his book series, is that, he talks about the 5 things. Like, I post 5 things every week. Like Monday, it's faith, then it's family, then podcasting and business and veterans. You post something different every day, so everybody's just not saying business, because then they don't relate to you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And what you're saying, I think when people see that you're relatable, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. And I'm going to start following you a little bit more, right?
That's exactly it. I mean, I literally have clients that their wives, brothers and sisters, cousins, like you hear all the, like when I was selling digital marketing in the beginning, like everybody had an excuse why they didn't want to work with us. I literally have clients now who they have significant others, people in their family that do digital marketing, but they work with me because 1, they obviously know that we're good at what we do, but 2, they know that I'm an entrepreneur and a human and just someone that they can connect with on a deeper level. And I understand what they're going through. So that is just as important, if not more important, than the actual product or service that you're selling, because people don't want to have that buyer's remorse. They want to feel confident, and they want to connect with you as the business owner.
But now, talking about branding, like I said, I love branding. Your brand has to be consistent. Like, I'm not going to mention his name because I'm not about to get sued. But there was a guy that I followed. Everything was about, being a husband, being a father. And now 6 months later, I look at a post. He just got engaged and got married to somebody else. And I'm like, wait. This whole 6 months I've been following you and reading your books about being a great husband. I didn't know being a great husband to somebody else's wife. You know what I'm saying? So I think that you have to be, like, for me, I'm sober now going on 34 years. If, all of a sudden on my show, I get sponsored by Budweiser, that's not looking great for my brand, especially if I'm trying to help people, get sober and stay sober. So talk about, brand consistency and trying to keep it, to stay in your lane. But like Kobe Bryant said, stay in your lane, but dominate that lane.
Yeah. I think, it's easy for people to be not necessarily not consistent, but it's easy for people to go off brand because they don't necessarily take into consideration how many people are actually watching. But it doesn't take very many people that are consistently consuming your content for people to literally understand if you miss a post, if you're supposed to be doing a podcast that you're launching every single Thursday, if you miss a Thursday, launch of an episode, like, people notice. They notice the smallest of things. And as you mentioned, people consume content and they're like, they have you portrayed as this person. If all of a sudden a drastic shift happens, well, you lose literally all credibility, and it's so difficult to get that credibility back. You literally it'll take you a while to build all this stuff up, but it only takes one thing to take it all down. So I think people, a lot of times, they just get comfortable. They don't necessarily think that people are watching, but there's people that are watching literally everything that you do. So it's important that not only are you consistent, but you just need to be true to yourself too, right? You're doing all of this content, you're building this brand for other people, but more importantly, you're also building it for yourself and your family. And so it's that saying goes, it's not just about what you do when people are watching, but it's also about what you do when no one's watching. And that's kind of the same type of reciprocation that needs to happen with your personal brand.
And I love that. Like, I tell, like, when we hang up, I'm probably going to tell you the same thing, that there's a lot of people that are one way when the camera's on, another way when the camera's off. I'm the same goofy guy, on, off. If we see each other, you're getting a hug. But that's who I am, and that's who I want to stay. So when somebody sees me, be like, wait a minute, he's joking around on camera, but in real life, he's an asshole. You know what I'm saying? I don't, because it can blur the lines. And I think, like you said, you got to be like, if I met Gary Vaynerchuk, which I've met Gary and had lunch with him, but if you meet Gary and he's wearing a 3-piece suit and he's talking all proper English and doesn't drop a couple F-bombs, you're like, that's not really Gary.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like, what you're talking about is very true. So now let's talk about, because I got into entrepreneurship 3 years ago. Everything has changed. It used to be on Instagram, you could post a picture, you'd get 1,000 likes, 1,000 views. Now, if it's not 8-second videos, if it's not TikTok worthy, you're not going to get any views. The landscape has changed over the last couple of years, even over the last 6 months. So what is digital marketing going into 2023?
So a lot of it is around that video content. If you're not posting even the organic content, a lot of people think, oh, I can just post some content and then I can put paid advertising behind it and it's going to get me the results I'm looking for. Organic content, organic social media, organic search engine optimization with your website, your Google business listing, that's always going to be the foundation of your business online. The paid stuff is great, but it's like trying to take a magic pill and having that magic pill transform your business overnight. If you don't have that organic stuff going on, if you're not building that brand, whether it's your personal brand or the brand of your business, you're really missing the boat. The other aspect is videos are going viral left and right. And obviously every platform has its own algorithm, but it only takes one video to really get you out in front of a lot of people, assuming that you're talking about a topic that is relevant, that may be a little bit controversial, but it's who you are and what your brand represents, and you're providing education, then you have a real opportunity here to make a lot of money, but to really launch your business into another sector where it used to take you years to do that, of hard work and effort and all these different things. So I think a lot of people for a very long time, myself included, were like, hey, these videos, these short-term videos, there's not a lot of validity in it. It's probably a fad. It's going to go away, but it's definitely not going away. People's attention spans are just getting smaller and smaller. So the short-term video content is only going to continue to grow. And if you're not, getting on that wagon right now, I suggest you do so.
Okay. Now, some of the other experts, got to do the air quotes, they're saying, oh, go with the trends, go with whatever topic is hot that day, whatever if it's the Kardashians. But if I have on my podcast and on my YouTube channel, if I post something about willy-nilly, just about, the Kardashians, people are going to look through all my other videos and be going, I don't get it.
Yeah.
The Kardashians now, but he's talking about resilience in business and the other one. And you might get short-term traction, But I think in the long term, if it's not consistent, people are not going to know where to put you in the niche. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, it's got to be on brand, and it's got to also be the result of whatever you're doing. It's got to be worth your time and actually something that you want to build upon. So I saw a post from someone else in my network that was like, "Hey, I made a video on this particular topic, and there's all these sorts of comments. You have the trolls coming in, and people are DMing you left and right, and it was viral worldwide." And they're like, I can only do business in the United States. So now they have all this response to this content coming in. They're like, we're weeding through it because we know there's some ideal clients in the comments, in the messages, etc. But it's taking us so long to actually help in try to figure out who we can help and who we can't. So you have to, it's got to be on brand, but it's also got to be productive. Like you don't just want to gain all these followers and gain all this traction if it really doesn't, help you on the other end of it.
Okay. And I agree 100%. Since meeting Russell, I'm very big on analytics. And I think a lot of people, like my best friend owns a GNC, and we were talking one day and I'm like, who is your perfect client? And he's like, yeah, some 25-year-old guy. So I'm like, let's pull up your analytics on his Instagram. And it was 45-year-old females was his number one analytic. So all these years, he's been pushing out content to the wrong people.
Yeah.
And
all the time.
So talk to us about, like learning your analytics. That's why I said before, now you come on, I know who I'm talking to.
Yes.
And even like John Lee talked about, is before you start a business, you need to find out who your ideal customer is. Sometimes you got to go an inch deep, but you got to go a mile wide. Because Jim Rohn said, if you're talking to everybody, you're talking to nobody.
Oh yeah.
So talk to us about that, because I think that is one of the most important things that'll keep you successful in the lean times is knowing who your ideal customer is.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great topic of conversation, one that doesn't necessarily get talked about as much as it should. So there's always usually a disconnect between who you believe your ideal client is and the content or the messaging that you're actually talking about and who is actually watching it. So you just gave an example of someone that who's like, oh, it's a 24-year-old, potentially male, and the analytics is showing a 45-year-old or 44-year-old female. That's a wide gap. Like that's not just like, oh, hey, it's a year or two off. So an exercise that I always recommend, people that I talk to and my clients specifically go through is write out the characteristics of your ideal client and then take a look at your 10 best clients that you have or that you've had in the past. Put those characteristics in, a sheet. And then look at your last 10 clients and put those characteristics and attributes together. Most of the time when they do that exercise, and I've done it before myself where there's discrepancies, and it's an eye-opening exercise, but it helps you understand where the disconnect is. And the disconnect normally lies there because your best 10 might not be who your last 10 are, usually rarely ever is. But the closer that you can close that gap, the better you're going to be able to produce content, because your content should be portraying who you're actually trying to bring on as a client or be connected with. And too often we're just posting about stuff that we believe people want to hear, but normally it's not what people are actually wanting to hear, or we're attracting the wrong clientele.
Okay. And I agree. I can't wait to listen to this again because I'm learning so much. And once again, I just want to say, we've been friends for a while, and I just want to say I'm truly humbled and grateful for your friendship.
Likewise. Thank you.
I find, because like I said, I took a deep dive into, I got 15 books I'm reading right now. I got one that I'm listening to when I do my cardio. So I'm always into self-development. But they talk about, I forget who talked about it, that, my ideal client should be 10 years younger than me and 10 years older than me. Other than that, if it's 20 years younger than me, we're not going to really connect.
Mm-hmm.
There's a different set of lingos, there's a different way we talk. So talk about that. Like, I know that I'm not the 53-year-old guy that's going to be dancing, shaking my ass on TikTok. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Some people think, well, I just want to go get popular, so I'm going to do something that's really popular. And it really doesn't resonate with somebody, that you can build a long-term business relationship with,
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like, what is your goal around why you're doing something? Like really why you're doing anything, right? So if you're going to get, healthier and start eating better or going to the gym, like what is your goal around that? You talked about your goal is because you want to walk your daughter down the aisle in 20 years.
Yep.
If you don't have that why, if you don't have that purpose behind literally everything that you do, you're going to be unfulfilled in some sort of format. So let's say we create that video that we know that's going to go viral because it's going viral right now. And I just have to put myself in that position and make that video. If all I'm getting out of it is more followers, but I'm dealing with all the notifications and the craziness that comes with going viral, but it's a bunch of people that really, frankly, I don't care to be in front of. What was the reason behind why I did that? Was it just to get the satisfaction of, man, I went viral and I got some new random followers all over the world? Most of the time, people don't actually want that, but they believe that that's what society wants them to actually have. And so you need to understand what's important to you. You need to have that purpose in your why behind literally everything that you do. And I know it sounds very tedious. If you're going to put out a video, you need to know what you want as an outcome of that, but you at least need to know what your purpose and why for putting that video out is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, because I mean, like, I know on our TikTok, I call them friends, they're followers, but I call them friends. We only have about 10,000 of them. But for me, when I put out a video and somebody says, you know what, that touched me, that made me feel something. For me, I'd rather have 100 people engaging and 100 people, knowing that I'm there, I got your six, it's okay, be resilient, than having 1 million followers and then you look in the comment section and there's 0 comments. I see that with people that got blue checks, they'll put out a post and it gets 1,000 hearts and not a single comment. I don't want that. And that for me, that's not building relationships. And I think digital marketing, even in real world, brick and mortar, it's all about building relationships.
It is. And it's about connecting with others and ultimately making an impact. And what can you be doing to make that impact and make that difference, as you mentioned, in people's lives? That's literally everything.
All right. So now I'm going to ask a hard question because they call me the G.I. Joe Rogan. So I'm going to ask a hard question. The last 100 days, you said, has been some of the greatest days of your life.
Yes.
And also, I'm sure 99 days ago when you put out a post, because I've been following you, some people will be like, I never knew he struggled. And it builds your credibility even more. So talk about what the last 100 days in your life has been like.
Yeah. So back in August, I decided to get sober and quit drinking alcohol. And it's something that, I have quit alcohol at times in my life doing pretty much 75 hard. That's really the only time I've gone, maybe a week or two without drinking. And I never really realized the toll that it took on my body, but just my happiness and really how I showed up each and every single day. And as we really started to grow in business this year, my team doubled in size. I started to take on more responsibilities from a higher level and truly succumb into the CEO role of our company. And it required more of me. And there were times, there were weeks, definitely days that I just struggled to show up and be who I needed to be as an individual. And it really took a toll on me because the one thing that was kind of hanging over me and I was never really able to face head on was drinking. And it wasn't like I was waking up and literally starting to drink or that I would drink every single day. But as an entrepreneur, we already feel like we're on an island. And when the weekend comes, which is what I was normally doing, you have success or there's a struggle that's going on in business, or you're like, man, it's Friday at 5:00. Let's just have a good time this weekend. I was taking it to the next level, and it was the amount I was drinking on the weekends that would eventually lead to long extended hangovers and just not feeling 100% come Monday morning, which is when I needed to be at peak performance. And so I decided to stop drinking back in August. And man, literally the last 100+ days have just been phenomenal. Personally, I feel better than I've ever had before. And it's obviously came with challenges. There's different things that I've had to face since becoming sober and different environments that I've had to be in for the first time without drinking. But ultimately, things are starting to fall in place like I always imagined them to. But I never really saw how they could have fallen into place without drinking.
Now, like I said, I've been sober since I quit drinking at the age of 20. Think about that. I quit drinking. I was an alcoholic from 12 to 20, and I quit drinking at 20. So I quit before most people started. But my question is, I wish when I got sober, there was a book like James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. I wish I would have known that when I got sober, because, I love James and I can't wait for him to come back on the show. But I love how he talks about, 40 to 60% of your day is all habit.
Mm-hmm.
And like Ed Milet talks about, and Tony Robbins, your morning ritual and your evening ritual will depend. Your next day's success will depend on your evening and morning rituals.
Yeah.
So what is your evening and morning ritual like now that you're sober?
So the evenings, I try to go to bed at around 9:30 every single night, maybe a little bit later on the weekends, but it really revolves around not being in front of my computer or my phone really for the last hour. I don't have too much other than a ritual. I'm trying out some different things before going to bed, like breathing exercises, meditation, yoga, a couple different things that I'm trying out right now. But my morning routine is really what I guess actually one key thing that I've been doing at night now for a couple years is laying out my clothes for the gym and work for the next day. So that way I'm not running around the house trying to get that organized in the morning. But when it comes to the morning, during the week, I wake up at 3:50 in the morning. I head out to the gym. I do 10 minutes of meditation. I do 25 minutes in the sauna. I do a 45-minute workout. I get back. I practice gratitude. So I use an app, just writing down 5 things that I'm grateful for. And, then I get ready for my day. Pretty simple and easy. I've tested out a bunch of different things, but that's one I've been doing now for a while now. And it works for me.
Yeah. Now, one thing that anytime I talk to anybody that's uber successful, like Ed Milet, they talk about gratitude. For me, before I go to bed, I say 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I also pray for my wife. Then when I wake up in the morning, if my eyes open and I can actually see something, it's going to be a great day because I can see something and my vision's starting to come back. So I think of 3 things that I'm grateful for that day. And I spend 10 minutes, just like you said, just in gratitude. But I do something different. And everybody tells me not to do it, but it works for me. So I actually play like an hour of either Madden or NBA 2K3 before I go to bed, because I want to make sure that I'm crushing somebody in the game. I want to score 50 or get 30 rebounds.
I
So
love it.
to bed, I'm thinking, all right, I'm crushing it. Like Tim S. Grover talked about with Kobe and Michael. I'm a cleaner. And when I wake up in the morning, I feel like it's stupid, but I feel like I'm ready to dominate the day because I scored 30 points in a video game. I know it's stupid, but it works for me and it puts me in a great mental state to get going. You know what I mean?
I love that. And I think, everybody's different, right? What works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you or anybody else. You got to find out what works for you and what gets you going. I think for so long, myself included, I was looking at what other people were doing and we're like, man, they're so successful. I got to do exactly what they're doing to a T. And it just doesn't work like that. You got to figure out what works for you. You got to identify and analyze the results that come from it and then make something your own. It's got to be your own. That's absolutely for sure.
And, like Tim Grover says in his book, Winning and Relentless, if you want to be a cleaner, you got to be cleaner in everything. And they, like one of my friends, Daniel Gomez, talked about when he was on the show last month, is the way you do one thing is the way you do pretty much everything.
Oh,
so
yeah.
if I'm going to take out the garbage, I'm going to take out all the garbage. I'm just not going to leave a little garbage in the house. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, last question, a couple questions I have. Somebody starting out, brand new business, just gets out of the military. It's December 5th, 2023. Give them 3 pieces of advice. If you were going to start a business today, what would be your top 3 pieces of advice?
I would say figure out what you're passionate about. I think a lot of times people go towards monetarily value of the opportunity of starting a business. They don't understand that you have to have a passion for what you do, even if it's something that's new, right? Like I never thought I would have been so passionate about digital marketing, but the reason why I'm passionate about digital marketing is the impact that it has on the businesses that I help and how many people are impacted when one single business has success or does well because of our digital marketing. Number 2 is don't give up. I mean, there are literally so many different things that are going to come across your plate running a business as a business owner. You are going to be put against hard times and have your back against the wall like you've never seen before. I try to equate my life as an entrepreneur to different things that I had happen as an employee. And literally, like the worst day I ever had as an employee, I can't even stack that up against to like the 100th worst day I've had as an entrepreneur, because you don't have the same responsibilities. The impact isn't the same when something goes wrong when you're running a business versus being an employee for somebody else. So don't give up. And number 3 is truly understand your why and your purpose behind what you're doing and why you're starting a business, which kind of relates back to number 1 is that passion, but the purpose. So getting super, super clear on why you're doing what you're doing and the impact ultimately that's going to have. I have what I call a commitment, and I am the commitment to living a whole, well-rounded life in all areas of my life, not just in business, not just in religion, not just in relationships or my health and fitness, but literally everything. That's what I'm focused on working on. And my purpose is to impact as many people as I possibly can. Now, whether that's directly in their business or because of my content, helping out an entrepreneur or someone that just is an employee of another business that resonates with my content, they're likely never going to be a client of mine. But if I can impact them, that's what makes everything worth it for me. So getting super clear on that.
And one thing I love you just said is don't give up. Don't quit. Because even with podcasting, everybody says, yeah, everybody's got a podcast. But the average podcast lasts 15 episodes.
Yep.
And there's almost 50% of the podcasts that are out there are inactive for over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you did episode 16, you're like in the top 10% worldwide. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
So you got to stay consistent. So now, how does a person or a new business, if they want to get in touch with you, if they want to work with you, if they want to follow you, where do we find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So the easiest way on social media is to find me on Instagram. My handle is Adam L. McChesney. And then you can also go over to AdamMcChesney.com where you can find out everything about me as an entrepreneur, find out everything about Hite Digital, and then see all of my social links, see my podcast and YouTube channel as well, and all that good stuff.
All right. So, because I absolutely love your podcast, by the way.
Appreciate that.
If your numbers have gone up, I'm taking full credit.
They have.
Almost every episode that you've had.
Thank you.
It was about your podcast.
Yeah, so it is called Entrebrewer, and the thought process behind that particular podcast is that every entrepreneur has its own story, have their own story, right? And I have the phrase line or the tagline that entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed. And so we bring on entrepreneurs and we ask those guests, we compare their journey to that of the beer brewing process. So we walk through a series of questions and we compare their entrepreneurial journey to that of the beer brewing process. So we put a little bit of twist on some of the questions that we ask, but we really, just get our guests to open up about their entrepreneurial journey, some of the ups and downs, some of the lessons that they've learned. So that way they can pass on some of the insights and advice that they have to the audience.
Now, of course, that's available on all platforms.
Yes.
All right. So like I said, brother, I'm so grateful and I'm so humbled that we finally got a chance to chat. Been trying to put this together forever, and the gods didn't seem like they were trying to work with me today, but I think we finally got it. Thank you, Zuck. So I just want to say thank you so much for being able to come in and hang out.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was a great time, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Guys, so make sure you're checking out his podcast. Make sure you're checking him out on LinkedIn. He's got an amazing profile. Make sure you check him out on Instagram. And guys, like my t-shirt says, today I decide. You guys can decide whether you want to be successful or you want to be a failure. I always say you can choose victim or victor. I choose the victor every time. So make sure that you check him out. Make sure you subscribe to the show and leave a comment if we touch you at any way at all. And tell us what kind of business you're in, because I'm sure he would be interested to know what kind of businesses we all have. All right, brother. Well, have an amazing week. I know it's only Monday, and I know you're going to crush the rest of the week.
Thank you. You too.
All right, God bless. And guys, remember, vertical momentum. The only way to go is up. I love you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow.